The 9 Years podcast is brought to you in association with Season Master and the Window Workshop. All right, everybody, welcome to the 9 Years podcast. I am Nick Draper, joined as always by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deacons. Thank you very much for downloading the show this week. We will be reviewing the defeat to Newcastle in the League Cup. In the week, looking ahead to this Saturday's trip to Salford, looking around League Two, we've got a bit of news about footballer contracts, perhaps ways to boost our membership as a trust-owned club. My father was a John Joe O'Toole maker as well. But Stu, before we do anything else, we have news. There's been lots of news just as we came to record the podcast this evening.
Yeah, it feels like, in a way, we actually did really well delaying our recording of the podcast to further. It's almost if we knew, which of course we didn't. Surprising news, to be fair, from my point of view, is that we are on track to have the game against Carlisle take place at Plough Lane on the 12th of October. Obviously, there was doubt. Well, the major doubt was a pitch. That looks like we have repaired what needs to be repaired, and as we speak, they've chucked loads of sand from Brighton Beach. No, I ain't joking. They've chucked loads of sand on it, and they're going to put some grass on it as well. And it's going to be playable, and it looks like with certain things happening internationally that we will have enough players to not invoke I don't know what I was going to say, invoke an international break. Yes.
Yeah, a postponement. Yeah, a need to postpone the fixture. Yeah, so the game with Carlisle, I am pleasantly very surprised that we've been able to be in this position where we expect the game to go ahead at Plough Lane. Official site website, we're still a little bit in the dark, aren't we, about exactly what happened, really? Like we discussed on the show last week. Still not entirely sure what happened, but the official site report says water tank beneath the pitch has now been resealed. So we can infer a little bit from that, I think, about what happened. As I thought, Stu, there was no flooding the local area. There was no sinkhole that suddenly appeared on the pitch out of nowhere. It seemed to be some sort of explosion beneath the surface, and that surely comes from the infrastructure below the surface. So let's just hope that the 9.5 metre squared area is all fine and dandy, and we never have to even factor into our considerations anything to do with this ever again.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you're right. The official thing was a attenuation water tank beneath our pitch has been resealed, which makes sense. Obviously, when I've been down there, I have seen the sort of they call it a membrane, which is like a goes over the top. So I'm guessing that's potentially, and I'm no expert, and I don't know any more information, but maybe that was what broke, and they've resealed it and put the stuff on top of it. Yeah, the River Rondell didn't break its banks. I know I've seen many a times. Because nothing else in Plough Lane was flooded apart from our pitch, which it looks like the high levels of water in the River Rondell on that weekend or that Monday morning meant that the rainwater that come into Plough Lane that goes underneath the pitch and stuff had nowhere to go. And when water has nowhere to go, it tries to find a way out, and it found a way out in our bunker in the Miles Hippolyte corner, as we're going to call it. I'm not too sure who's going to play that position ever again, because they might never be seen again. But yeah, it looks like that's what happens. So if the experts are happy that no more damage has been done, then we have caught a lucky break. Let's be fair, we've caught a lucky break, because that could have been worse.
Did you say there was a membrane?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, in the
That's insane.
I know. Hey, look, I can only repeat the words that I said. I'm, like I say, no expert. But you know what? In time, and I'm sure we will have this, it would be really interesting to hear, not not the technical terms of it, but to get a real sort of good overview of what happened and what we've done or can be done to rectify it, because it is a concern that it's happened. It might be a freak of nature because of what happened, but I think the good thing from a football point of view. I think we all were a little bit like, when are we ever going to play at Plough Lane again? Can we get back on track with the season that's going so well? And it looks like we are on course. And let's be fair, from a football point of view, Carlisle form at the moment is probably a good time to play Carlisle. And of course, it will be a second time. Hey, look, this is an interesting fact for you. Mike Williamson will be will be in a dugout for 2 consecutive games at
Yeah,
Plough
that's
Lane.
true. Yeah, that is true.
Hey, look at that for a fact.
Yeah, he'll be looking to get a little bit of revenge, I would expect.
Yeah, a bit of a different
Mm.
atmosphere.
Yeah, just a smidge, just a smidge. It says we've got some replacement turf. Where do you get do you know where you get replacement turf from, Stu?
Normally B&Q in it or something like that.
A turf mill.
Oh, oh, yeah. Do you know what? I do know a little bit. I've spoke to Luke, the head groundsman, top guy, and I've felt for him this last 2 weeks because the pitch is his it's his responsibility, isn't it? It's his
Hmm.
pitch. And they're
It's
very
his
proud.
baby.
Yeah, they're all very proud of their pitches, aren't they? But I do know, chatting to him, that he said, grass nowadays can be grown off-site very easily. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and around Madrid, Bernabeu. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, underneath their pitch, they literally are just growing grass underneath the pitch that can just come up at any point. I'm not saying we have anything below Plough Lane, but grass is quite. Technology has moved on a long way from putting a few seeds in and hoping they take.
Yeah. I think you can grow grass everywhere, Stu. I think my neighbour does it next door. But anyway, good news as we say. And the other part of this, as we say, is like we didn't want to build up of fixtures or postponements or ground shares or anything like this that would have derailed what currently is looking a really strong push for a promotion. And I'm going to say it, Stu, following Tuesday night. I know whatever, and we'll come on to exactly how Tuesday night went, but I looked at it and I thought this is a team that's going to get promoted out of League Two this season for a couple of reasons. One is because we're not playing Premier League teams every week. But that level of defensive organisation that we showed at St James's Park is shouldn't have come as a surprise to anyone. All right. It's what should have actually happened against Ipswich as well, if we're being honest.
Yeah,
Ipswich gave away a goal really early from a corner, which is massively disappointing for us. We know that there was a mistake for the equaliser that Ipswich got, but otherwise, across our games in League Two this season, that's how we set up with our three centre halves. It turns into a back five when we're out of possession. Everyone knows their roles. Everyone is very what's the word I'm looking for? The thing is, you start talking in teacher talk at this moment, Stu. But they're, you know, we're switched on. We're intelligent. We know what our jobs are. We don't switch off. We're conscientious, and teams struggle when teams have possession against us. Milton Keynes, Fleetwood, Cheltenham, when they have possession, there's nowhere for them to go. We're so well drilled. We're so well organised. And I think if you do that in League Two, that is, hey, look, it's not entertaining to watch. I know we're going to come on to that second in any way, shape, or form. But we've seen Stevenage in this division. We've seen Rotherham. Even in League One, we've seen likes of Rotherham's play this way, and it's successful. And when you've got players that can, given the opportunity, score goals, when you've got players that can take set pieces and we can be dangerous from set plays, we've got a lot of height in our team. We are a League Two team, I think, that at the end of this season gets promoted.
yeah. Hey, look, we've seen many teams come to our place who've got promoted. So you sort of know what. I know it's that may people may laugh when you say what sort of team needs to get promoted. Of course, a winning team, that's the team gets promoted.
Mm.
But you sort of see the makeup of teams, and they're normally built on a very solid defence, built up with a lot of height, because League Two is about set plays and those sort of things. There is quality, but the higher up the league you go, obviously the quality from open play is better. But we've seen more than enough team. I think the Newcastle performance was different because we played a low block.
No,
I know you
no.
don't.
Oh, oh. We defended deep. We defended
Yeah,
deep.
we defended that, and then we looked to get balls out to Omar and to Joe Pigott. That was an interesting partnership, which I'm starting to think is becoming a preferred partnership
Okay.
at the moment,
Hmm.
how it seems. But Omar won a lot of free kicks against some really strong defenders in Newcastle. One thing you look at Premier League teams is they're not just they're not just good players, they're athletes. So Omar holding his own against them was really impressive. But I think we showed a different way of playing. We still had that solid defence, but we showed a different way of playing without the ball. And there are going to be games that we might not have the ball as much. Many teams that hold possession, like Notts County, and teams like that. So there are going to be maybe times when we have to play a bit differently. What I would add, by the way, Notts County, I don't know if anyone's seen Notts County's first goal by Jota. Is it Jota? Jota? I don't know what his name is, but not Notts County forward. Um, a long ball by Alex Bass, literally straight over the top. It is not a Notts County goal,
Right.
um, but it just shows you that the teams learn. You can do different ways to score goals. So, no, I agree. I agree. I think solid squad. But there are some key players within that, and I think they showed their worth on Tuesday night up at St James's Park.
Yeah, and I think the biggest miss we had on Tuesday night was Jake Reeves, because the difference from this Newcastle performance to the Ipswich one was that, hey, against Ipswich we had two shots at goal, but they both came from set pieces, free kicks from deep from Jake Reeves. And when we got similar positions or opportunities against Newcastle, we didn't have him, and the quality wasn't as good. Let's be honest. Let's be blunt.
Yep.
We didn't have a shot. Do you know what? We didn't have a shot in that entire game, right? Okay, so in injury time, I think it was a Hippolyte. The ball bounced about 30, 35 yards from goal, and he just put his foot through it. And obviously, it got blocked about 5 yards away from him. The ball eventually worked its way wide, and Harbottle did a sort of cross come shot type thing that didn't come off. We didn't have a shot in that game. All right. Okay. Had Jake Reese been on the pitch with our set pieces when we did get them, we might have done. But hey,
Yeah. Hey, look, do you know what? We gave up possession. We went up for free kick, for free kick, set pieces and stuff like that. But we didn't overcommit. And yes, we let them have the ball. And we retreated. I don't think there's anything wrong in that. In terms of, uh, hey, look, as many people have said, we should have gone toe to toe with them and gone out. But equally, if we come away from it with a 4 or 5 nil defeat, I know Barrow went to Chelsea and lost by 5. It would be seen what impact that's had on. But no one likes losing. You don't like getting your backsides kicked. Really, it would have done no good. I think players like Joe Lewis, Owen Goodman, basically our defensive line would have come out of that really confident, going to Salford on Saturday, thinking, well, look, if we've held a Premier League team to 1-0, then we can go to Salford and do something. So I think it just breeds confidence. But obviously Jake Reeves didn't play. Joe Lewis, immense. I think we forget how good he. I think we said this before when we become a little bit accustomed to Joe Lewis and his performances, but he really is solid at the back there. And alongside him, Mogandiri and Harbottle, we've got quite a decent defence, and we've got Ryan Johnson still to come back.
yeah, I think Joe Lewis has improved in his time with us, to be honest with you. I think he started well, but I think he's got better in that time.
Yeah.
And there'd be all sorts of reasons for that, and potentially playing in a back three perhaps suits him a little bit more. But anyway, by the by, hindsight is of course 2020, Stu, and there's lots of talk, like you say, about people saying, it would have been nice to maybe have had a bit of a go at Newcastle and what have you. But on another day, potentially we don't give away a penalty, we see that out and we take it to penalties and we win on penalties, and it's the most memorable cup tie ever. So what the game boiled down to was the fact that we conceded the penalty in injury time at the end of the first half. Was it a foul in your book?
Angle wise, it's difficult to see. I think it's frustrating that an assistant referee has got involved in it. Yes, okay, he might have a better view, but like this, you've had a referee ain't that far away. And it's just frustrating how long it takes. But I suppose if you look at it at first, it shows a bit of Premier League quality in terms of mixing up the corner. We're really good from set plays, but it did caught us a little bit unawares. The first one is a dive, and technically that's a dive. And is that a does it get stopped there for free kick to us because of simulation? And the second, hey, look, it could have been. I don't think it was, but it was given, and that's what done us in the end.
It's quite funny watching it live because there was quite a delay, as you say. The linesman awarded it, the referee didn't give it at first, and there's quite a delay. But watching it live from the angle that we are watching it when you're watching it at home, you do think it's a penalty. And so you're kind of just waiting for him to point to the spot. It didn't come. It's a really weird sort of few seconds there. Sort of reminded me a few years ago, randomly. How about this for a random memory? All right, Rushton and Diamonds away. We conceded a penalty. We won 1-0. What was the blooming striker's name that scored the goal? Ross Montague?
Montague, yeah.
Yeah, blimey.
Who I think has just actually joined. It's very funny you say that. I think he's actually just joined up with the Wimbledon Old Players Association. I swear he's just been almost positive because I think there's a. Do you know what's really funny, right? And Ray Armfield does a really good job with this, by the way. But he always includes what they're doing now.
Right.
And some of the jobs they do, like Annie Frampton is out in I think Dubai or something doing property management and stuff. And look, I'm not trying to say at any point some of these players are thick and some of them are clever, but it's always interesting to see what they go on
Okay.
to do. I can't think.
Hmm.
I will try and find Ross Montague, but I'm always positive he was signed up recently to the
To the
Whopper
to the
Whopper Whopper.
Wimbledon Old Players Association. Sorry, just when you said what he's doing now, I was on tenterhooks thinking, oh, what could it be? Has he signed for like a foreign team? Has he gone to a Scots? What is it going to be? So I wasn't expecting Wimbledon Old Players Association, I must admit, but fair play. But anyway, he scored the winning goal at Rushden Diamonds that night. And we conceded a penalty, and it was a similar situation where there was a blatant foul in the penalty area, and everyone was just like, "That's a penalty," and the referee didn't give it for a good while. And you're standing there going, why is he not giving the penalty? How have we got away with that one? And then he blew his whistle and went home. So he missed a penalty anyway, whoever it was for Russian Diamonds.
Yeah, I'm on the money. 2 days ago, Rowan Field played 17 games for us and become a teacher. He is currently head of Eton House Prep School in Belgravia.
Wow.
And
Okay. Wow. Did not see that coming. But do you know what though? Ross Montague has the name of like, do you know what I mean? Like if you said head teacher of a private school, Ross Montague, you'd go, yeah, fair. Yeah, that has that ring to it, doesn't it? I'm not saying like it's not nominative determinism in any way, shape, or form, but he just has that sort of name.
it just looks like a teacher.
Yeah, he's got that aura about him. Can I just say, teaching is a strange profession, Stu.
Yes.
I am absolutely shattered right now. If you haven't already cottoned onto this, listeners, my brain's not quite working. Okay, it's been quite a long week, and I've spent my day walking around the streets of King's Cross with about
Children.
80 year 11s. Yeah, okay. I was walking around, and it wasn't like the old days when I used to walk around King's Cross. That was a lot more fun. No, I'm joking. It was actually a really good trip. And as always, our students were exemplary as they always are, but it's knackering. It's very, very tiring. On top of parents' evenings, had a 13-hour day on Monday, Stu. It's crazy. I have no idea what's really going on.
Shocking.
Yeah,
Shocking.
no.
Suppose, yeah, it's Russian Diamond. I remember going to that. Wasn't that Neen Park from memory?
Neen Park. Yeah,
The old
yeah,
Dr. Martin's
yeah. We gave him a
owner,
shoe
wasn't
in.
it? They were tough. They were. No one. I was trying to think of a tough joke then, but I can't think of
Tough as
it.
old boots.
Yeah, it doesn't go.
But,
Let's move on.
kind of way. Yeah, where do we want to go? Newcastle. Okay, so what's the other thing I was going to say about Newcastle? It's, the commentary. So what I'd say to you is I think we said beforehand, we watched it on TV. I think a lot of people watching on TV had a very different experience of Tuesday night than those that went. I
Yeah.
think it was a fantastic experience to those that went, about 1,500. Fantastic effort from all of those people that managed to sort themselves out at such short notice to get up to Newcastle for a midweek fixture. Created a lot of noise in the away end and had what sounds like a fantastic day out. Right,
Mm.
absolutely brilliant. For me, watching at home, not quite the same experience. It is what it had to be, and I'm not criticising at all, as we've discussed. If we'd have gone out and tried to go toe to toe with Newcastle, we'd have got spanked. Right, we went about it exactly the way I would expect us to go about the game. It just doesn't make for entertaining viewing, really. Okay, you can take the positives out of it, and you can say fantastic organisation, fantastic defending, and be very impressed with our performance in those regards. It doesn't mean it's that fun to watch. It's like Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, the Iron Man match at WrestleMania. You can appreciate the technique involved in the storytelling and how they put that match together. Doesn't mean I really want to watch it ever again.
No, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, and you have to say, yeah, no, 1,500. I think it's 1,550 in the end went up to Newcastle, and they had to open up the Phoenix in the end at Plough Lane, because I think they had over 400 people wanting to go to Plough Lane. So from that point of view. Yeah, Joel, I just felt to me like the commentary, it felt like the sound had been turned down on the crowd because it felt very flat. I know
Yeah,
people that went to a game and said it wasn't that at all. It was, and it's like anything, going to a live game, you get the atmosphere and stuff like that. You don't always get that on TV. And so I think it was one of those ones that if you were there, it was an awful lot better to watch in person, as you were saying, because of the arena and what a live game brings to you. But watching on TV, yeah, I wouldn't watch it again. But equally, obviously, I do look at things tactically because I'm that sort of nerd inside of it. But it was good to see how we dealt with a team that has ultimate possession and we kept our shape. That was really good. Um, but from a viewing point of view, and the commentary wasn't great. And was it Sam Parkin who was doing the joint? I'm
yeah.
not too sure.
I'm not. Do you know what? I'm not sure, but that sounds right. Judging by the voice was one I recognised. I didn't actually catch it, but
Yeah,
I think you're probably right. It was Sam Parkin. Yeah, that would fit.
yeah. And I think the thing with Sky this season, right? Sky obviously are broadcasting over 1,000 games live this year. It feels to me like they've run out of commentators, and it feels like you got referees. You got referees at a certain standard, and you got referees at a standard lower down, and they go up according to the match spec. And it just feels like some of the commentators are. They just try not to be disrespectful to commentators, but are not the high quality of that, and it feels that way with some of the games. But ultimately, I'm enjoying watching. I'm watching the games. I'm enjoying that, and so I don't want to criticize too much, but yeah, it was a bit of a chore.
It's actually Rob Palmer who was the main commentator, and he has been doing football for donkey's years. So I am always somewhat surprised when it
Mm.
comes to a Premier League versus a League Two fixture that he expressed some of the sentiment that he did. One being the atmosphere, saying, Newcastle fans not really creating much noise or anything like that. And I was kind of thinking, but do you know what? That's the equivalent of when we play at home to Guiseley or Weymouth.
Yeah,
The away
yeah,
fans in that situation. The away fans are always going to make more noise.
yeah.
Always. It's just the nature of things. So I don't think that was anything particularly. And he was also surprised a little bit by our approach. And I was thinking, why are you surprised by this? What do you think is going to happen if we go about it in a different way? I thought it was odd. I did have to have a little bit of a chuckle, Stu, and I really do have to say this bit. But when it was, I'm sure it was Sam Park, and you're right, co-commentator. Towards the end of the
Mm.
game, he said, I'm surprised that Wimbledon haven't come out yet. And I was thinking, well, if we did, Newcastle's owners would chuck us off the roof of St James's Park.
I know. Yeah, you have to laugh. I was actually, do you know what? I was in two minds actually to think whether they were actually at St James's Park. It felt to me they could easily be in
Yeah.
one of the old boot rooms,
Do you
couldn't
know
they,
what?
and
I
just
think you're probably
commentating.
right. I
And
think,
that must be really difficult to commentate on a game you're not there because you're not feeling it, are you? You're literally just like I remember the old days when they used to do I think Terry Gibson used to do the Spanish league, he still does now. But
mm,
they used to have the live feed. And I remember seeing something where he just said, I'm just sat in a room watching a TV.
yeah, I remember that actually. Yeah.
That doesn't really help you get
No.
to speed with it. Do you get what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's what it felt to me. Just didn't feel like they were there. I think you can sometimes tell when they're there and not there.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Well, I've gone there for a little bit, Stu, and I'm going to carry it on. All right. So Newcastle, yeah, they gave us a bit of money. There's talk about a pre-season friendly, and all of a sudden there's this talk of this relationship with Newcastle. Okay, I'm going to be blunt. Fuck that. All right, I want nothing to do with Newcastle United Football Club. Um, Great, wonderful, happy days. I don't think they've done it. I really don't think they've done anything particularly fantastic with us. To be honest with you, I keep seeing all these great, how brilliant Newcastle have been with us. I'm thinking, really, what have they actually, have they done anything really out of the realm of what would be considered pretty much normal behaviour? Not, I don't think so. We switched against St James's Park. They gave us a bit of money.
Yeah,
Like, um,
yeah,
so I find, if I'm being honest, I find the whole thing with Newcastle a little bit odd, somewhat sycophantic, and what really does actually annoy me, which is why I'm having a bit of a mini rant about this right now, is we talk about our ownership model, and we always talk about, people say we want to remain fan owned. It's vital that we remain fan owned. Yes, we can sell to somebody. We could sell overall control of this football club to somebody that we're happy with, but we don't know then. After that, it's out of our hands, and we don't want to end up with an owner we don't like. Well, I'm going to suggest that Newcastle's owners are the type of owner that we would not want for our football club. And I think, as I've said to you many times, I hate the Premier League. But the worst thing about it is clubs like Newcastle and like Manchester City being owned by nation states that are authoritarian, homophobic, misogynistic, and they use their ownership as a way of sports washing to try and cover up their horrendous regimes. I hate it. I don't care if this makes people criticize this podcast for being woke, which I find hilarious when people say that. You know I'm knackered when I start ranting about this, Stu. I did warn you this was going to happen before we started the podcast. I want nothing to do with them. So have your pre-season friendly at Plough Lane next season. I'm not going anywhere fucking near it. Anyway, that's me done.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. Hey, look, do you know what? It's a weird one because I feel like Newcastle as a club haven't really. I feel it's been more their fans that have come on board with it.
Yeah.
Um, so we, and look, do you know what? If you went to Newcastle on Tuesday night, hey, look, I've done Newcastle away, did it midweek as well, and got back at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I know personally what the atmosphere is like at Newcastle and stuff like that. So I can understand as fans us getting caught up with that, bubble as such. We needed something positive on the back of a real shit news about Plough Lane. And I think it gave out a positivity. But Newcastle fans have been generous. That's great. But let's be fair. It's been a little bit case because and I don't want to say they've sort of mocked us in a way, but we are the little club. They are a massive city club, aren't they?
Mm.
And yes, they give us nice money, but there's this loving is a little bit uncomfortable because let's be fair, the club is owned by as you've rightly said. So we have morals, but morals go out the window when money's involved, as Newcastle fans have shown. And I'm not saying that we should never accept any money from Newcastle fans and stuff like that, but I think it's a quickly move on. We may get a friendly out of it from Newcastle simply the fact of that they probably will recognise that we were going to have a home game against them. Whether it fits in with their travel to many different places in the world during the summer is a different kettle of fish. Yeah, no, I'm a little bit with that. I'm a little bit with you on that. I love the fact that football fans across the country have supported us,
Yeah.
but they haven't all come from Newcastle.
No, not by a long stretch.
The loving is a little bit, I'm not with it, but each their own. And I get, like I say, if you went to the game and you got caught up with it at James's Park and the people up there, the Geordies are lovely people. No one can understand a word they're saying, so you just all smile. But they are nice people up there. They love their football. They live for football. But yeah, the club itself is sort of sold out to a nation state.
What should I rant on next? Where should we go? Right. Oh, I feel better for getting that out of my chest. Anyway, okay, right. Talking about ownership and ownership models that we perhaps want to continue to have. And we talk about reducing percentage possibly somewhere down the line to potentially 50.01 or whatever it might be. Something caught your eye this week on social media, didn't it, about Germany?
Yeah, today, cool. To be fair, we're recording this on Thursday. We gave it away because we just said we just found out some good news, and that was released on Thursday. But yeah, just a tweet. Charlie Talbot, who interestingly was on the Sale Wombles this week, which I listened to with Chris Stewart. If you haven't listened to it, it's a good listen about the 50.01 and a viewpoint from both sides. But I think during that, Charlie did mention about funding, where we are, where we could have been, where we should be. And based around the member side of it. And it was just interesting that FC Union Berlin, a German club, and we know about the 50.01 thing over there that happens. But they announced they had 67,638 members as of today, which just struck me as like, wow.
It's a big number.
It's a lot of members. And no disrespect, little members.
It's a lot of members.
And no disrespect to anything in Germany. They've got a very, very strong lead, but Union Berlin are not one of the clubs that I would say stand out. But it just got me interested of how much money are they making from that? Because of course, our membership is £50 from memory, separate from the season ticket.
It is now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, separate from the season ticket holder. And I think I'm not too sure how many. Again, I don't know numbers because I don't know if we've released. Obviously, we've got about 4,500 season ticket holders are automatically members, but we don't know actually how many members we have that are just standalone members. I think, from my understanding, it did increase when we drew Newcastle, because we had a few people that wanted to be members to get Newcastle tickets. But give or take, I think it might be around about 1,000 people. Equipment or arithmetic, 50 quid a time gives you a figure. But the club membership for Union Berlin is quite interesting. It's either £10, €10 a month, or €120 a year. And that gives you, I believe it gives you a scarf. Let me just say, why become a member? Participation influence through voting rights at annual general meeting, the option of membership in a fan and member department, first option on high demand tickets, season tickets, home and away league games, and exclusive scarf for every new member. There was I mentioned, like, in terms of, if we looked at 67,000 members paying €120, you look at about 8 million quid. Sorry, 8 million euros. Sorry. Now, of course, there are youth members, which is a bit cheaper. They also do a family membership. But even if you just said, for argument's sake, I don't know, just say 4 million, just cut it in half. It's going to be more than that. Even 4 million quid. Sorry, 4 million euros. Sorry, is a hefty number. Now, when I tweeted that back, some people did say that it has increased recently because of the high demand. So they nearly sell out all the time. So they roughly about 20,000 attendance. But that's still 3 times. Their members are still 3 times over.
More than that.
Do you know what I mean? So, hey, look, do you know what? I've said my bit about what I think as us as fan owned, but if we are going to stay fan owned, we have to be better at bringing revenue in. And what, could you imagine? So from our sake, we get what, 8,000. So say a third of those members would be 20,000. If we got 20,000 members at 50 quid.
Yeah.
So and you could argue, being totally biased, that we are a very, very good story. Why would people not want to be a member of us?
I'm trying to think of what the other factors involved in their high membership, though, that we might not have, or that we're competing against, in terms of league structures, league positions, geography. Are they like?
Yeah, there's always going to be. Yeah, you're right. There's always going to be different sort of set of circumstances. But it's an interesting. Of course, they're in the top league. They sell out. Well, to be fair, we need to sell out.
Yeah,
we're not far off that, are we? And I know we did have an influx of members because we drew the Newcastle. So yes, you could argue that the better opposition you play, the more attractive it is. But you wonder sometimes, do we actually push our membership as well as we could do? I think we pushed it really well this season. I feel like the comms on the membership and the benefits you can get are good. But look, I'm open for fan ownership if we can prove it works, continues to work, and we have to use whatever we can. And I just feel we're a little bit behind sometimes on getting that story out to people.
It's really difficult, though, isn't it? Like, as I say, like I still think there's a lot of people. Hey, look, what this boils down to, Stu, and this is going to link back to my previous rant, is that for the overwhelming majority of people supporting a football club, what is their priority? It's winning football matches. So, and literally nothing else, to be honest with you, really matters, I don't think. So, like, in terms of pushing Don's Trust membership, as you say, and the voting rights that comes with us, and the idea of the trust ownership and fan ownership, however you want to term it, will people really ever see the value in it? If you were to say, for £50, this is what you get. You get a single vote on things. They might think it doesn't come into their line of thinking still. I don't know. This is like,
no, you're right.
We feel like have this conversation quite regularly, don't we? But yeah.
Well, if we're going to prove fan ownership works, we need to get our revenue streams better. There's no doubt about that. In terms of,
true.
From the stadium, what more can we get out of the stadium? But what more can we get out of our story? And my biggest thing I always say to you is that we are a fan-owned club and we are unique. We are with Exeter, who are a league above us. We are the only real true fan-owned clubs. And how do we survive? If we are such a great story and such a great model, then we have to survive in that model if we want to survive in this league. And I don't think any of us want to get into League Two and then sacrifice that because we want to stay fan owned to prove a point. We need to make sure it works. And that's my argument on there. But like I say, it was a really good discussion on the same old one was this week, I felt. Don't get me wrong, I was screaming at my Well, I was actually on the way to Plough Lane actually when I was listening to it. So if I was screaming, I would look a bit of a fruitcake. But I was not. I was disagreeing with a few things that they both said. To be fair, but one of the things that come away from it was Charlie's talking about, well, if we do stay at 75%, then we need to make sure we have the revenue stream because the equity won't be there to sell. And we have to survive because we can't keep kicking this can down the road. So if we are to survive, I feel we need to, as a club, look at avenues. And there are clubs around the world that have good membership that maybe we could hopefully follow.
Yeah, we still got a lot to talk about, haven't we, in terms of financing debts and what have you. There's a lot
Well,
to
that's
be.
gone away a little bit, hasn't it? Obviously, with the
Mm,
flood, but that comes back. It all comes flooding back to us all now, doesn't it?
yeah,
It will raise its head.
it it will. Yeah, we can never get away from it, can we? As you say, it's sort of
No.
like almost like a millstone hanging around our necks. One thing that is potentially not going to help us in terms of revenue streams and making money is a court judgment to be made very soon on player contracts. And we won't go into depth on this one, but it's just worth highlighting. It's popped up the Lasana Diarra case in which he was sued by his club for breaking a contract, and they asked for compensation
Yeah.
from him, and it's been back and forth, and now a judgment will be made, which will either find in favour of FIFA in their transfer rules, or it'll be made in front of essentially what is the individual and their employment rights. Football transfers are historically stupid. What it means is basically, should the court judgment find in favour of the player, basically, it opens the way for players to be able to essentially cancel their contracts and probably be the end of transfer fees as we know it.
Yeah.
Um, Football, as I say, football's very, very funny. Transfer fees are a funny thing when you put these things into context, and it's I talk about transfer fees all the time, Stu. You know I do. You know what? Sorry, listeners. You know I hate how football has become, and I look at the sums that are spent on players in the Premier League, and I find it absolutely absurd. But realistically, ignoring that and ignoring the size of the transfer fees in basic employment rights, it doesn't really work, does it? It it's in no other in apart from outside of sport, in no other realm would this ever be allowed, really.
No, and the preliminary judgment, I think a preliminary judgment by the board that are going to review this have said that there's three key points, and all three of them says that basically there was a problem in terms of the player being restricted
Mm.
his trade. Hey, look, do you know what? I think the thing is, I think it will if it goes ahead and there's no transfer fees, and let's remember the transfer fee isn't for the player; it's for their registration.
Yeah,
That's what's transferred. It's technically a contract that's transferred, isn't it?
yeah,
But yes, it probably is a restriction of trade. However, the top players will not suffer from this because there's no chance. I don't know, Lionel. Well, let's not use Lionel Messi, but there's no chance maybe of a Ollie Watkins serving out notice on Villa because actually he's worth. His contract is good. Villa is playing well. He's doing well. He's playing where he needs to be. Okay, so you're not going to get your top player. But down our level, it will massively impact it. One, because you won't be able to get a transfer fee, realistically. And two, the player will be unprotected because, and I used this in a WhatsApp group. Oh, we had two players last year picked up injuries, all one in form. Ryan McLean picked up an injury.
yeah,
Now, as a club, we could have, if we were going to say that players can cancel their contracts whenever they want, and that's the same with a club. So the club could have gone, well, you've got an injury, good to us anymore, bye-bye, and give whatever notice there is.
yeah,
Harry Pell wasn't playing well, we're not in the squad, probably one of our higher earners. We could have gone, actually, no, we don't need you anymore, you're not very good, bye-bye, see you later, go and play for another club. And we
mm,
could have done that. Whether reputation you want to do that, you don't have a reputation for, you know, saying goodbye to injured players, but ultimately it's a two-way street.
yeah,
So need to be careful what you wish for. But it would play massive havoc. I I wonder whether it would go through because let's be fair, transfer fees, even at our level, transfer fees are massive. How would that how would that impact clubs up at the top end of just losing players? Could they? We already hear players being tapped up now. Well, how would that work then? Being tapped up by Man U that you can, I don't know, Man U to Man City. Also, they were saying that it could break the thing of that you could play for more than one club in a season. So we might see
hmm
players like Alex Gilby down there all the women time at Plough Lane, getting our players.
yeah,
There's loads of questions. I wonder. I think it's bigger than the Bosman. I think it's bigger than the Bosman was a real big one, wasn't it? But I think it's a bigger one than that. And judging by the fact this has been going on since 2014, it tells you how much it's gone through to get to
yeah.
this stage. I think I can't see it happening. But if it does, I think your players down your lower levels are going to be really fearful. That's who it's going to impact.
Be fascinating to see what the actual outcome is. I've always in wrestling, there's this phrase called the non-compete clause, where if your contract ends, you've signed your contract and it precludes you from appearing for another company, wrestling company. You can go and work at Tesco's for other one, but for a period of time. I'm not sure that how much.
Like gardening leave.
Yeah, essentially that sort of thing. And you could probably find players' contracts will probably, if players can just cancel their contracts at any point whatsoever, which I'm sure they can do anyway. You can just, didn't Chris Hussey just retire? I mean, if you retire,
You can come
yeah,
to a
yeah,
mutual agreement, can't you?
yeah, yeah. Um, so from that side, I think the players will be okay, and perhaps the clubs will protect themselves with some sort of non-compete clause or something like that. But the transfer fees issue. Yeah, I could spend hours on this, the philosophical debates about this, Stu, but we're not going
They
to go
may,
into that depth. But
yeah, they may find a way around it. You know, at academy level, you pay compensation for a player under 23. So there could be something that the clubs build up that if they play X amount of games on that contract, then the compensation is this. There's no way that there's no way the football world will allow players to go around for nothing because it's a
it blows
financial
the whole thing
business.
apart.
Yeah, you know, you wouldn't give someone 2 or 3 year contracts. But like I
Mm.
say, it does mean if you lose form or get injured, then you could be out of it. So would players want that? Because like I say, your top players are going to be fine, they got money, but our players at our level couldn't, you know, some of them are 1 year contracts, and that's unsettling to
Mm.
them. Could you imagine if they could be they might be a notice period of a month? It could go, you know, you could walk into training and go, right, here's your month's notice, I don't need you, bye.
Yeah.
So yeah, the PFA will get involved in this, but it's not surprising it's coming along. You know, it's always been about freedom of trade and stuff like that, isn't it? So
Mm.
we'll see. But we've got, hey, look, you got that happening. You got the Man City 100, 230 or 300 charges they've got. Um, the lawyers will be involved, won't they? And we'll see what comes out in the wash.
Mm. Nice word, nice turn of phrase to end it there, actually. Um, but yeah, right. All that said, Stu, let's lighten the mood a little bit with another game of My Father Was a John Joe O'Toole Maker. Before I get to this, I will point out that you said very, very long day today, very, very long week I've taken to having some microwavable meals due to get me through because I don't have really time to cook. Got a nice cauliflower cheese the other day. Packet said, remove cardboard sleeve and film. The most boring video I've ever made.
Joe, right? Obviously, I'm home now looking after my wife, and we do reps in the morning. I feel sometimes like I'm a calf because I've got so many things going on in my air fryer, my microwave, and I don't actually use my oven anymore. I just use the air fryer. I still get confused with microwave though, right? Do you ever get to a stage of knowing what is microwavable? I still always ask my wife, "Can I put this in a microwave?" I've just been using a microwave for like a good 20 years, and I'm still confused.
I think just don't put a cup of tea in the microwave. I think that's pretty much the rule, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
no one does that, do they? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. Some people who like American things now, they might do.
But nothing wrong with microwave meals. Not a good way. Obviously, I'm not too sure how healthy they are, but it's amazing what you can microwave in a couple of minutes, and then, oh yeah, you got a meal.
Is that how it works? All right, thanks. Okay, now I've figured it out. I must admit, I don't have an air fryer though, because I consider air fryers some form of voodoo or black magic, and I feel that they should be burned at the stake. I mean, really no idea how these things actually are about work or anything like
You,
that. So
they're
yeah,
amazing. You know when everyone's got one is when you look on the back of packets for instructions and it's air fry instructions now. That
okay.
is when you know you're in with the top people.
They've made it. They've
Yeah.
broken through the air fryer. But my father, anyway, was a John Joe toolmaker. And the cryptic clue is very odd this week, but it suits this player to be mostly eating.
Um, yes, I swear. Shit doesn't swear, but I don't
Oh,
know. No,
yeah,
I have
kind
no idea.
no, fair enough. Number two, this player was an FA Cup semi-finalist in 1997.
Oh, Well, I'm assuming it's someone who played for us. Well, yeah, actually, it has to be. Otherwise, that'd be a stupid competition. Chris Perry.
Oh, it's good. It's good, but it's not right. But you're in the right part of the pitch.
Hmm.
However, this player was a Northern Ireland international who actually scored his first Wimbledon goal away at Preston North End in the year 2000.
Northern Irish international. That's totally bugging me up now. Mark Williams.
Hey, well done. There you go.
He's the only Northern Irish international player I knew we had apart from Michael Hughes.
Yes.
Um, there's probably
Yeah.
more.
There probably was more, but actually, off the top of my head, no. Michael Hughes. Yeah, Mark Williams.
Cool.
Um, FA Cup semi-finalist in 1997 with
That was Chesterfield.
Chesterfield. See, I threw that
That
one a little bit of a
that
red herring in there.
that famous wasn't it the famous game at against Middlesbrough at Old Trafford that
Yeah.
went over the line? Was that right from
Yeah,
memory?
that's the one. Yeah. Yeah.
Can't think who done that shot. Oh, Chester. Anyway, interesting when you think about Chesterfield now in the same league as us, but
Hmm.
had that magical run, didn't they?
Yeah, they got all the way to the semi-final. They should have won that day. The ball did cross the line. I can't remember the name of the striker that had the shot
No,
up
so
the
I'm
other side
trying
of
to
the
think
bar.
of it at the moment. Yeah,
But Sean Dyche scored a penalty, obviously. You remember that one. And
did he
then
really? Thought,
Chesterfield, yeah, it was Sean Dyche, wasn't it, that put the penalty in for them?
yeah, oh, you
And then,
forget the managers have been players, don't you? Do you know what I mean? Can
yeah,
you imagine? Can you imagine a celebration with that voice of his? Do you know what I mean? Like, it must have been like, oh, crikey, it must be like an old motor going along the pitch. Yeah,
you think back and you think Jamie Hewitt was the name of the player that scored the equaliser that day. I'll never forget that name. But Mark Williams, Sean Dyche, Kevin Davies, wasn't it, the
that's it.
striker?
That's it. That's
Yeah.
a striker. That's a
I don't
striker.
think it was him that had the shot. I think it was the other lad who had the shot that hit the bar. But Kevin Davis was playing for them. And when you look at that spine of the team, it's probably no surprise that they did so well. That FA Cup run probably cost them promotion or something similar. I don't know. I'd have to look back. But yeah.
Oh, it can do. It can do. A lot of clubs have done that. Lincoln City when they had that great run
Yeah,
and
of
lost
course.
to
Yeah.
Arsenal. It
Yeah.
does. It creates an awful lot of games, which is the problem we've got now. We've got three games to rearrange because we're free. Hey, look, we're still mid-table. Everyone else is playing around us, and we're just waiting. Well, okay, we'll play catch up.
We are definitely playing catch up, and we have to somehow schedule in games with Tranmere Rovers, Crewe Alexandra, and Accrington Stanley.
Accrington Stanley. Who are they?
Exactly. Salford City first. Currently, Stu, I still think it's a little bit early to look at league positions, but they're currently 20th in the division. We know who their manager is, and he knows what he is. They lost at Newport on Tuesday night. I think they've lost three of their eight league games. I think they've lost the last two as well, Walsall and Newport. But they've got a good squad. They are underperforming again, I feel. With Cole Stockton they signed, didn't they? The former
Yeah,
Morecambe goal scorer, Hakeem Adelarkin, who did wonders for Doncaster last season, is now with them.
yeah.
Um, but our last two visits and our only two visits to the Peninsula Stadium. What's it actually called? What's the actual proper name of their stadium? I'm going to find it up because it was on their documentary back on the BBC back in the day when then
Moss Lane was it?
something like Moor Lane, possibly. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, we drew 0-0 the last two times. What's going to happen this time?
Well, Neil, I can't believe we haven't scored there, and they haven't scored against us there,
No.
which is really weird, isn't it? Or that. Obviously, last season played them in a 1-0 win when I got two players sent off, which was quite funny. Um, I don't know. Do you know what? Funny thing about, by the way, Newport game is Carl Hudlin scored for Newport from a header. When he won a header for us at Wimbledon, we all celebrated. Um,
You're giving me PTSD of Sutton away on New Year's Day.
yeah. Joe, it's an interesting thing with Salford. They haven't drawn at home in the last four games. So whether it's going to be a fifth one, but do you know what I mean? It's going to be tight. I can probably defensively they're quite tight with us in terms of that side of it. But I'm expecting us to go there and win, just because I think squad wise we've got a decent squad. We haven't played many games recently. We did rest some players at Newcastle, which sounds silly, but we did. We did rest some players in that way of it. So I can see us going there and winning on Saturday.
Wow. Do you know what? I'll go for another nil-nil draw. I suppose we have to concede in the league at some point because what is it now? Is it four consecutive clean sheets? Cheltenham, Fleetwood, you know who, and then
Bradford.
Bradford. So yeah, maybe we are due to concede maybe in the league at some point. But so maybe 1-1 draw. There you go. I'll take that.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. But when you think about Salford, they're doing worse than what I thought. I thought, no matter what we think about the manager in terms of record, decent. So I thought he'd be doing better than what he is. But Salford's a weird place because, let's be fair, there isn't much atmosphere there. They are above their, they're overachieving if you think about their status. If that's without being condescending.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are 2 wins coming against franchise. Everyone beats franchise, and home to Cheltenham. So yeah,
but Cheltenham weren't at the races that day. We do see franchise get battered everywhere they go, but we're not going to talk about what happened to them on Tuesday night. Suffice to say, League Two went a bit crazy on Tuesday. Big European tie for Fleetwood. They scored 6 at Warsaw, but some odd results. Cheltenham did get a win. Barrow did lose, as you say, coming off the defeat to Chelsea. Gillingham lost at home to Grimsby. There was all sorts going on. What about your pick of the fixtures this coming Saturday? There is one that stands out to me.
Well, we look at probably Accrington, Morecambe.
There we go.
Just because they're both struggling. Although Morecambe, I think last 2 games have led and thrown away leads. Notts County, Port Vale, interesting one. 2 teams that you probably think will be up there. But yeah, no, Walsall, weird, obviously, that they conceded 6 at home.
Yeah.
But as we've always said, the league takes shape after 10 games, and this weekend is a 10th fixture for most teams. Obviously, it'd be our 7th for us. And if you're looking at it, probably no surprises really, apart from Walsall being up there. But Gillingham tight, obviously lost at home to Grimsby. So yeah, I think we're in a really good position. Points per game is what you're looking at. You're looking at roughly about 2 points per game to get promoted. We're on 2.17 points per game.
Wow.
So near enough. If you get 2 points per game, you're going to be at least playoffs. That sort of side of it.
Gotcha. Massively. Yeah. Easily 2 points per game. Yeah, easily. Yeah,
depending on how the league goes. But let's be. But what I would say is, when you look at League One, with the teams that went up, they're all doing really well. I think it shows you how strong League Two was last season. That the fact that Wrexham, Mansfield, and Stockport are all in the top. I think all top 6.
Yeah, Mansfield are doing really, really well considering. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that just shows you how tough this league was last year, which is why we all thought it was going to be a really open league, and nothing really has stopped that. I don't know if you saw I watched. One thing you can do on Sky at the moment is you can watch highlights from each game, and they have like 2 or 3 minute highlights. Alex Bass was in great form for Notts County against Carlisle. Some amazing saves to keep a clean sheet. It is not a surprise to see Notts County keeping clean sheets now with him at the back, but he was outstanding with some of the save he made. But we're not doing too bad this fair. Owen Goodman, a little bit unsure start of the season, but I don't think anyone's really making any comments about him, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. At the moment on the pitch, it's all looking good. We have to say just one other thing, Stu. It's very nice. We've got a non-league game in League Two on Saturday when Fleetwood host Bromley. So that's nice. Get a bit of non-league action into the League Two.
Do you know what's really interesting also is I've forgotten his first name now, Mr. Cheek.
Michael
Cheek. And it's interesting. No one wanted to take a chance on him to score goals in League Two. Comes out with Bromley and scoring goals. Decent, really good goals. Do you know what it reminds me of, right? I was watching, I think he scored a goal again on Tuesday night. Remind me of Danny Kedwell, who come up from that league level, was good enough, but just, it just makes you chuckle sometimes. Don't get me wrong, Bromley are not flying high. They're now starting to probably, that early bubble that he's scoring goals at plenty.
Yeah. Fair play. We do see it happen. Players can hit a bit of a purple patch. And that is your cliche for this week.
Is that what we're calling our bunker in that corner? It's going to be a patch, isn't it? Let's be fair,
it's
right?
It's going to be a patch,
no one's going to play right wing. No one's going to play left back. and we're going to avoid that like the plague in case someone disappears down it. That's us joking, by the way. We're not suggesting that will happen.
Yes, and let's just touch wood that doesn't happen, because otherwise this podcast will age very badly. But anyway, that is enough for this week. I am very, very tired, so Stu, so I think I'm going to go and put some bread in the toaster, because that is what you put in a toaster. Thank you very much for joining me this week.
No problem.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last. 2 + 2 continues to equal 4. And we shall speak to you again next week.